Hey, welcome back. It's been a while. If you've been wondering where I am, I can kind of understand. No, I didn't get abducted by aliens or vanned by the feds yet, but here I am. Just been really busy with work and, a lot of stuff. Plus, we kind of derailed on that generator project, but that's why we're here, because I have a small little update on that. So we've got the Kohler engine attached to the Grobon alternator thing. Got the propane all hooked up to it. I have a air filter adapter. This is the adapter that goes to like the big heavy duty cartridge type air cleaner like you see on commercial equipment instead of like the where is it, this round thing. That little hole that I put in there with the grommet was my test to ram propane down its throat. Kind of worked good, sort of. So that's the old air cleaner and everything. But basically I got this piece here because it had this, there's a little plastic, roundy thing that the hose clamps onto. I guess it's for the crankcase vent or whatever there. But it was basically, it just had a stub, like a little stub pipe on there, which allowed me to hack an air hose up and attach, ram that into the 5/8 propane line that goes down to the regulator, which eventually makes its way over to the tank, and then just jam some propane in there. So as you may or may not know, the other generator kind of died. The motor runs, the engine works just fine, but the alternator head, the part that makes the magic electricity, that stopped working. I'm going to bother to troubleshoot it. I don't care at this point. I'm just kind of frustrated and pissed off with it. So this is the backup plan. This produces electricity. It's kind of got a janky switch box on it. That thing there, I'm going to tear that all apart when it's time to put this into production and make that into something respectable. Just come off with the, right out of there with the 220 leads. This is another one of them capacitor excited generators. So hopefully it don't let us down like the other one did. This one's in a little better shape. It's also bigger. This is a 10K rated generator, same as the other one, but the alternator on this one is probably 50% bigger. So I got to imagine that this is a higher quality unit. I'm just imagining. I could be wrong. This was a gas job. So there's our diaphragm fuel pump that runs off of the vacuum surge or whatever coming out of wherever. This is our fuel line going to the carb. I got that blocked off with a bolt. That's real, scientific tolerance right there. Yeah, I was just looking at all. So I have another carburetor on order from Nash Fuel that supposedly fits a CH23. This is a CH18. The footprint of this plastic adapter and the carburetor that I saw on eBay are the same. So I got to imagine that carburetor is just going to drop right in here and voila, work. I could be wrong. I probably am. It's not the first time. So I'm hoping to get a legit propane carb for this and get rid of the gasoline carburetor, and away we go. And then, just use the same air cleaner and just plug that hole I made in it. No big deal. Bingo, bango. This here is the fuel shutoff solenoid line for the gasoline carburetor, and I tagged onto that, and we're going into our lockout valve or shutoff valve for the propane. So when we energize the key here, you hear that click. Nice big healthy click. Yeah. So let's enable our supply here. And I'm going to crank this so you can see what it does. Right out the gate, out of the box, it don't do much. Reason being is, remember, this is a demand regulator. There has to be demand, in other words, suction, coming from the engine. And the amount of airflow that's going through this hole is great enough that when the engine's pulling air in, because remember, engine's basically an air pump. It sucks air in, adds fuel to it, blows it up, explodes it, and then that explosion moves the pistons around and turns the crank, and then you get rotational energy on the crank, which gets converted into whatever the hell you want. But basically it's sucking in air and it's spitting out exhaust out the exhaust hole right there. But the air, the volume of air that's passing through here in this opening, it's not really creating a suction per se on the demand regulator. And that's why I'm hoping that this propane carburetor that I've got on order is going to solve this issue. The workaround is we just restrict the airflow. And, you know, while I've been testing, I just put my hand over it. And that creates basically a venturi, you know, by default, where now you've got a pressure differential between this side and the atmosphere, open atmosphere, which then that creates a larger amount of vacuum, you know, within this chamber, which then travels down here to our demand regulator, hits the diaphragm in there, which opens the valve and then supplies this with propane, allowing it to run. So I've played around with this a few times. It will fire when you have the correct amount of restriction on this orifice or that opening, whatever you want to call it. Key is it needs to do that when the transfer switch activates the starter circuit and tells the thing to turn on and go. So it's like somebody can't be like, okay, I'm ready, and just like, you know, sit there day and night for 24/7 waiting for a power outage. I mean, I could probably wrap some rubber around here and zip tie it real good and then throw the air cleaner out. You know, I can figure that out. That's not rocket science. But again, I've got a carburetor that should bolt right onto this thing, I hope. And away we go. And if it don't, hopefully their return policy is pretty good, because otherwise I'm screwed. All right, so enough of me yammering. Let's see if I can multitask here. And gotta see, can I? All right, so I can, you know, with my giant bear paw, I can barely reach the starter switchy. Yeah, running that indoors, get her daily allowance of carbon monoxide. Yeah. All right, so I kind of manipulated that a whole bunch of different ways there so you could see that, you know, manually restricting the amount of air going through that opening, you know, determines how the engine runs. If it gets full breath, then there's not enough suction to draw in enough propane to, you know, run correctly, and then it starts stumbling. And then if I restrict it too much, you know, when I placed my hand all the way, you know, maybe 3/4 or you know, whatever, 5/8, so if I went too far, then it was starving for air, and then it, started stumbling on that side of the spectrum. So there's obviously a little science to this. So, if that carburetor shows up and it don't fit or something's wrong and I gotta, jerry rig this thing, then it's just going to be a matter of finding the sweet spot, of where the airflow should be. And basically what I'm going to do with that is get it running, get the transfer switch to transfer load to it. And then while it's under full load, then I'm going to move, like a steel plate or something over there and find the exact spot that it has to be and then mark it. And I'm going to watch the voltage. And under full load, I want this thing to be, I think it puts out 230 based on the capacitor that's in there. I may change the capacitor to try to get it up to 240. I don't know. Maybe I should, quit fucking with capacitors and blowing things up. So maybe I'll just leave it. But under full load, I'm going to find where the sweet spot of airflow is and then cobble together some sort of apparatus to clamp on there and be, rigid and robust and permanent. And then hopefully the air filter goes on top of that. But, I'm hoping that the carburetor just shows up and it bolts right on and, all the linkages attached perfectly and I hit the key and it goes. Yeah. We'll see. So, quick update for you guys. I have been super busy. I'm sorry I haven't gotten any content out, but that's just how it goes. And it's been raining for a month straight here in upstate New York. We finally got some sun out there. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, see, the sun is out. Holy moly, finally. So I've got about 30 projects mid-flight right now between myself and work. So we'll get to that when we get to that, but I just wanted to dive in here quick and let you know I'm still alive and, I haven't opted out and I haven't been abducted. So, this thing derailed and we might have switched tracks at some point. So there's more to come on that. New project that may come as a shock, but you probably won't. All right, so that's about it for right now, and I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.